They surprised us in 2019. Will they continue the climb in 2020? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the 5 surprise teams of 2019 and with a forecast of what they will show us this fall. Please like the video, comment, share the videos on social media, and subscribe. And turn on that notification bell so you know when we're coming your way with live streams, including tonight. That would be Thursday, February 6th, with live streams featuring Ohio State at 7 o'clock, Miami at 8, and UCF at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So lock it in right here. All right, the North Carolina Tar Heels under Mack Brown, 7-6. After just 5 wins over the previous 2 seasons under Larry Fedora, enter Mack Brown, who won a national championship at Texas, took the Longhorns to another national championship game, lifted the Tar Heels 2 decades ago from a 1-win program to back-to-back top 5 finishes with 10 and 11-win seasons. Mack Brown, of course, got Sam Howell to flip from Florida State and flip 38 touchdown passes in Chapel Hill, and of course, Howell's back. He was just a true freshman in 2019 with 3 near-elite wide receivers in Daz Newsome, De'Ami Brown, and also Bo Corrales. Their top 2 running threats are back this season in 2020, and most of their big-time productivity behind the line of scrimmage on defense. What a wild season for North Carolina in 2019. 9 one-score games. They had the 4th and 19 conversion against Miami to topple the Hurricanes early in September, 25-20. They had the nail-biter in the opener as a double-digit underdog against South Carolina, 24-20. A 6 overtime loss to Virginia Tech, 43-41. And, of course, they were the team in the ACC, the only team in the ACC that came anywhere close to defeating Clemson, and they sure made it close, 21-20, on a failed 2-point conversion. North Carolina should win the Coastal in 2020. That's not necessarily my prediction, but that's my forecast right now based on the head coach, the coaching staff, the recruiting class, and all that firepower with a proven quarterback in Sam Howell. North Carolina should win the Coastal in 2020, our number 5 surprise team in 2019. We stay in the ACC for team number 4. It's the Louisville Cardinals. Left for dead by Bobby Petrino in 2018 at 2-10 overall, 0-8 in the ACC. Enter Scott Satterfield, and the Cardinals turned it around at 8-5. And of course, Petrino, this is his MO. This is what he does. He jumpstarts programs. He flashes the offense. He calls some brilliant plays, puts up a lot of points, puts up some decent seasons, and then he leaves the program for dead. He did it at Arkansas, his first time around at Louisville, now his second time at Louisville, and his would-be stop in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons. Satterfield, after 3 consecutive Sun Belt Conference champions, let this Louisville team play loose. Let them have fun, fancy-free, nothing to lose. And they played well. They played well, especially on offense. They were opportunistic on defense. They still have a lot to work on that side of the ball, but 62-59 over Wake Forest. They beat BC 41-39. They beat Coastal Division champion Virginia. And, of course, they capped off the season down 14-0. They came back against Mississippi State of the SEC and won that game, again, to finish at 8-5. Our surprise team at number 4 is Louisville, coming back from 2-10 to go 8-5. They've got a tough 2020 slate here. Notre Dame and Kentucky out of conference. They've got North Carolina as their crossover game, and of course have to deal with the Atlantic Division, starting with Clemson. Louisville, our number 4 surprise team for 2019, should be able to post another 7-8 win season under Scott Satterfield. Team number 3 on our list of surprise teams for 2019 is I Can't Stop Coughing, and therefore I can't cut the video in one take, as I typically do, would be the LSU Tigers. We go straight to the top of the SEC and College Football Nation for the national champions. Yes, top 5 talent. Not a surprise that they would win at a high level because they always have amongst the best talent in the country. But they also continue to lose 3-4 games under Les Miles since 2011, and now Ed Orgeron. But in 2019, entered Joe Burrow in his second season, having had the luxury of the entire offseason, spring practice, summer drills, fall camp, to work under the mastermind, Joe Brady. This team scored the most points in the history of college football. They may have displayed the best wide receiver core in college football. And just the offensive display, the circus was masterful. They put up 42 points with no issue on Clemson, possibly the best defense in the country in the national championship game. Is Miles Brennan the guy that can keep this thing humming, not at a 60 touchdown pass pace, but maybe 40 touchdown passes? No Joe Brady, no Joe Burrow this time around. 2019 was ridiculous. Of course, LSU is for real in regards to overall talent. Can they contend for another national championship? They, of course, play Texas in week 2, this time at home after defeating the Longhorns to get that season rolling in 2019. LSU's our surprise team for 2019 at number 3. PJ Fleck, of course, you made our list. Our surprise team number 2 for 2019, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, 11-2 after a big bowl victory as an underdog. Of course, they were an underdog against Auburn and won that game 31-24. Let's go all the way back to 3 games left in the 2018 season. The Gophers were 3-6, and they were getting pasted by the likes of Illinois at that point. PJ Fleck fired defensive coordinator Rob Smith, instilled Tanner Morgan as the full-time starting quarterback, and the team took off. They beat a really good Purdue team. They beat Wisconsin in the finale to take back the Paul Bunyan axe for the first time in 15 years. And they blasted a 5-3 Georgia Tech team in the ACC in the bowl game, 34-10, to conclude 2018 at 7-6 and vault them into 2019, and off they went. Helped by a weak schedule early in the season. Then, of course, they had the showdown against Penn State in early November. They won that game at home against the Nittany Lions. Of course, they stumbled a couple times against Iowa and in the division championship collision with Wisconsin at home, so they weren't necessarily up to that challenge. But what a rise it's been under PJ Fleck at Minnesota in vaulting to 11-2, a top 10 finish in the country. They lose a ton of production. They do, again, have a light non-conference schedule. There's no Ohio State or Penn State on the schedule in 2020. And they're coming off what was possibly the most explosive Minnesota offense in the history of the program, especially through the air, with Tanner Morgan posting one of the ridiculous touchdown-to-interception ratios in all of college football. Minnesota is for real. Maybe not to the extent of 11-2, but they will vie for a Western Division championship in the Big Ten in a very interesting division suddenly. And finally, our most surprising team of 2019, the Baylor Bears. They capped off the season at 11-3. This is a program that Matt Rule took over at 1-11 in his first season coming in from Temple. They went 7-6 with the bowl victory in 2018 and then posted an 11-1 regular season. Their lone loss, of course, at home against Oklahoma in a game that would determine the number 1 seed in the Big 12 championship game. Baylor led that thing 28-3 before they blew it. They had the rematch with Oklahoma in the championship game, and they took the Sooners to overtime despite playing with the third-team quarterback because Charlie Brewer got hurt. Of course, it wasn't necessarily dominant or pretty for much of 2019 as they squeezed by West Virginia, TCU, Texas Tech, whom they basically were handed the victory by the officials on a play that would have ended the game in a loss. And again, they squeezed by Iowa State as well. But what a remarkable turnaround to go to the Big 12 championship game for the first time in school history. Of course, Matt Rule is now gone. He moves on to the NFL. But the administration nailed it with that hire. So you've got to think that They knew what they were doing in pursuing Dave Aranda, the defensive coordinator at LSU. They knew what they wanted. They went out and were decisive in getting Aranda. So we shouldn't be surprised if he keeps it going at Baylor. 11-1 for a regular season finish in 2020, though, might be a bit much to ask. They've got an opener against Ole Miss and, of course, the Big 12 to deal with. The luck may turn on them just a bit. They had it all going their way. All the bounces of the ball went their way in 2019. Look for Baylor to finish about 8-4 here in 2020. All right, would love to get your thoughts on our surprise teams for 2019 and how we would love to get your thoughts on our surprise teams for 2019 and how you think that they will finish here in 2020, if they will keep the train moving forward. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please lock it in. We'll be back with our 5 most disappointing teams of 2019 and whether they can possibly turn it around this fall.